Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something real tonight. When a man is crazy in love with you, it didn't happen by accident. It wasn't luck. It wasn't magic. It was something you did. And most women don't even realize they're doing it wrong until it's too late. Let me slow this thing down and tell you something most people don't want to hear. The first reason that man is crazy in love with you is not because of your looks, not because of what you do in the bedroom, not because you were always available. It's because you respected yourself when it would have been easier to settle. You didn't bend just to be chosen. You didn't shrink just to be kept. You stood firm in who you were, and that right there changed everything. See, a man watches how a woman treats herself long before he decides how he's going to treat her. When you didn't tolerate disrespect, when you didn't argue for basic effort, when you didn't chase after explanations that should have been obvious, you sent a message without raising your voice. You told him, I know who I am, and that kind of confidence does something to a man's spirit. It challenges him. It makes him either rise up or fall back. And the ones who fall in love, they rise. You didn't over-explain your standards. You lived them. When he was late, you didn't complain endlessly. You adjusted your availability. When effort dropped, you didn't beg, you observed. That's grown woman energy. And a man knows when he's dealing with a woman who won't lose herself just to keep him comfortable. That scares weak men, but it deeply attracts strong ones. You also understood something powerful. Love doesn't require desperation. You didn't rush the process. You didn't try to lock him down with pressure or fear. You let time reveal character, and while you waited, you kept your life full. You didn't pause your happiness for potential. You didn't stop being joyful, ambitious, or focused. That showed him that being with you was a privilege, not a rescue mission. A man falls hard when he realizes a woman chooses him, not needs him to survive. You wanted companionship, not validation. You welcomed love, but you weren't starving for it. And that balance, wanting but not needing, that's dangerous in the best way, because now he's not your only source of happiness. He's an addition to a life already in motion. And here's the part most people miss. Your self-respect taught him how to love you. You didn't accept half effort, so he learned to give more. You didn't tolerate inconsistency, so he became consistent. You didn't reward confusion, so he became clear. You trained him without ever trying to control him. That's why he's crazy in love. Not because you demanded it, but because you inspired it. You showed him what it looks like to value yourself, and in doing so, you gave him something rare, a woman who knows her worth and lives like it every single day. Let me tell you something about why a man falls deeply, almost uncontrollably in love when a woman doesn't chase him. This is where most people get it wrong. They think effort means pursuit, that love means proving, that connection means constantly reaching out. But to a man, space is not absence. Space is permission to feel. And you understood that without turning cold or playing games. When you didn't blow up his phone, when you didn't demand constant reassurance, when you didn't panic during moments of silence, You gave him something rare room to think. And in that space, his mind started working against him. He started wondering where you were, what you were doing, whether you were still interested. Curiosity turned into reflection, and reflection turned into attachment. You didn't disappear to punish him. You simply trusted that what was real would come toward you. A man needs the opportunity to pursue in order to bond. When he initiates, when he plans, when he chooses to show up, his emotions follow his actions. That's how men are wired. You allowed him to invest, and investment creates ownership. The more effort he put in, the more he felt connected. You didn't rob him of that experience by chasing or over-giving. You also stayed emotionally steady. You didn't swing between extremes. You didn't act overly available one day and distant the next. You stayed warm but grounded. That balance is powerful. It tells a man you're interested but not desperate. It tells him you value connection, but you value yourself more. And that combination makes him lean in, not pull away. Silence, when used with confidence, does not weaken a connection. It strengthens it. You weren't silent out of fear. You were silent out of trust. You trusted that if he cared, he would reach. And when he did, it meant more because it was his choice. That choice built pride inside him. Men fall in love with what they feel proud to earn. You didn't interrupt his process. You didn't rush him with timelines, ultimatums, or emotional pressure. You let him move at a pace that allowed his feelings to develop naturally. And while he was figuring things out, you didn't put your life on hold. You kept showing up for yourself. You stayed busy, fulfilled, and focused. That showed him that your world didn't revolve around him, and that made him want to be part of it even more. In not chasing, you did something extraordinary. You showed trust in both yourself and him. You showed emotional maturity, and without realizing it, you flipped a switch inside him. Now he's not running from expectations. He's running toward you because he feels free, respected, and genuinely chosen. A man falls deeply in love when he feels peace in a woman's presence. And that peace is something you gave him without even trying to control the situation. You didn't make his life heavier, you made it lighter. In a world where he is constantly under pressure to perform, to provide, to prove himself, being with you felt like taking off a tight suit at the end of a long day. Your energy didn't drain him. It restored him. When he talked to you, he didn't feel judged. He didn't feel interrogated. You listened without turning every conversation into a problem to be solved or a debate to be won. That made him open up more than he planned to. Men don't open up where they feel criticized. They open up where they feel safe. And emotional safety is a rare currency for a man. You created an environment where he could be honest without fear of it being used against him later. You didn't compete with his stress. You didn't add unnecessary drama to moments that could have been simple. When things went wrong, you didn't immediately assume the worst. You stayed calm. That calmness spoke volumes. It told him you were emotionally stable, grounded, and secure in yourself. And a man craves stability even if he doesn't know how to ask for it. You understood when to speak and when to let things breathe. You didn't react impulsively. You responded thoughtfully. That difference matters. Reaction creates chaos. Response creates trust. Over time, he associated you with clarity instead of confusion. When life felt overwhelming, he started thinking of you as his safe place, the one person who didn't complicate things. Peace doesn't mean silence or passivity. It means emotional intelligence. You knew how to express concerns without attacking his character. You addressed issues without trying to control him. You didn't make him feel small when he made mistakes. Instead, you held him accountable with respect. That approach made him want to do better, not out of fear, but out of love. A man commits emotionally when being with a woman feels easier than being without her. And with you, things felt natural. He didn't have to perform or pretend. He could be himself, flaws and all. That freedom created a deep bond. He started to value your presence, not for what you demanded, but for how you made him feel when nothing was demanded at all. That peace changed him. It made him protective of the connection. It made him more patient, more present, more intentional. Because once a man experiences peace with a woman, he doesn't want to go back to chaos. He holds on tight to what brings him calm in a noisy world. A man becomes deeply attached when a woman is consistent, because consistency builds trust, and trust is the foundation of emotional connection for a man. You didn't keep him guessing about who you were. You didn't show one version of yourself today and a completely different one tomorrow. What he experienced with you felt solid, reliable, and real. And that reliability slowly pulled him in. You didn't confuse him with mixed signals. Your words matched your actions. When you said you cared, you showed it in calm, steady ways. When you were busy, you didn't disappear in a way that felt manipulative. You communicated clearly without drama. That clarity gave him peace of mind. A man relaxes when he doesn't have to decode emotions or constantly wonder where he stands. Consistency also showed up in how you handled conflict. You didn't explode one day and shut down the next. You addressed issues the same way every time, with maturity and self-control. That predictability made him feel safe. He knew disagreements wouldn't turn into emotional chaos, and safety is what allows a man to attach without fear of losing himself. You were steady in your standards too. You didn't lower them when you were afraid of losing him, and you didn't raise them suddenly to test him. You stayed grounded. That taught him what was acceptable and what wasn't. Men respect boundaries when they are enforced calmly and consistently. It made him take you seriously. Because you were consistent, he began to trust your affection. He didn't question whether your love would disappear on a bad day. He didn't feel like he had to constantly prove himself to keep you interested. That emotional security allowed his feelings to deepen naturally. Love grows where there is certainty. Consistency also meant you showed up emotionally the same way you showed up physically. You didn't withdraw affection as a punishment. You didn't use love as leverage. You stayed present. That stability separated you from past experiences he may have had with unpredictable relationships. Compared to chaos, consistency feels like relief. Over time, your steadiness created a rhythm between you, a rhythm he didn't want to lose. He started planning with you in mind. He started considering your place in his future. Because when a man knows what to expect emotionally, he can finally relax and invest fully. And once a man invests emotionally in something that feels secure, walking away becomes almost impossible. A man falls harder when a woman allows him to feel needed without making him feel trapped. And that balance is something you handled with quiet confidence. You didn't act like you could do everything alone while pushing him away, and you didn't cling to him as if your world would collapse without him. You created space for him to step up, and men grow emotionally in the space where they are invited to contribute. You allowed him to help you, not because you were incapable, but because you understood that contribution builds connection. When he offered support, you accepted it with appreciation instead of resistance. That made him feel valued. Men attach emotionally when they feel useful, when they feel like their presence makes a difference in someone's life. You gave him that opportunity without turning it into obligation. At the same time, you didn't lose yourself. You kept your own identity, your goals, your rhythm. You didn't make him responsible for your happiness. That independence removed pressure. He didn't feel like he had to save you or constantly reassure you. Instead, he felt free to show up as himself. Freedom strengthens love, pressure suffocates it. You also trusted his role. You didn't micromanage how he showed up. You didn't correct every move or question his intentions constantly. You allowed him to lead in ways that felt natural to him. That trust built his confidence in the relationship. When a man feels trusted, he becomes more intentional, more protective, more committed. You expressed appreciation when he showed effort, not exaggerated praise, but genuine acknowledgement. That reinforced his desire to keep showing up. Men respond deeply to appreciation because it tells them their efforts matter. And when effort is appreciated, it increases. You didn't compete with him. You supported his growth without turning it into a power struggle. You celebrated his wins without feeling threatened. That made him feel safe to grow around you instead of away from you. Emotional support without control is rare, and he recognized that. By allowing him to feel needed while remaining whole on your own, you created a dynamic that felt healthy and balanced. He wasn't carrying you, and you weren't pushing him. You were walking side by side, and in that space, his love didn't feel forced or rushed. It felt natural, purposeful, and deeply rooted. What finally made his love lock in was the fact that you were authentic. You didn't perform for affection. You didn't pretend to be easygoing when you were hurt, and you didn't exaggerate strength when you needed support. You showed up as yourself fully and honestly, and that honesty created a connection deeper than attraction. A man can sense when a woman is being real, and he can sense when she's acting. You never acted. You didn't try to mold yourself into what you thought he wanted. You didn't change your personality to keep his interest. You didn't study his behavior just to mirror it back to him. You stayed true to who you were, even when it meant risking his approval. And that courage did something powerful. It earned his respect. A man may enjoy attention,